On the Track is a monthly webTV show about cryptozoology, natural history, green issues and whatever else the team feel like making up as they go along. Enjoy!
Yes, Bethany was completely correct. It most certainly was a comedy rhinoceros. But what could this entertaining perissodactyl be doing here, skulking in the grounds of a hospital which will not be named, somewhere in the south of England? Does this ring a bell? No, well it should. It's Joseph Merrick, the Elephant Man, who died in 1890. Recently, and we can't tell you when for obvious reasons, somebody identifying themselves only as W made a series of posts on an internet message board that we can't identify for obvious reasons. And what he had to say was jaw-dropping. W's claims are extraordinary ones. Apparently, or so they say, deep inside the British establishment there is a shadowy cabal who for over 150 years have been mixing the DNA of the larger African quadrupeds with that of poor, hapless human beings that have been snatched off the streets. Why? In order to destabilize the world of light entertainment and steal an election or something. These claims and the theories surrounding them have become known as Anon, and you'll be able to hear all about it here on CFZ TV. I didn't manage to get the rice out of my beard.
Right, so my name is Ethan Marshall. And welcome to another episode of On the Track.
I really like your cream.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who don't know me, my name's John Downs and I'm the director of the Centre for Fortean Zoology. What's the Centre for Fortean Zoology, I hear you ask? Well, it's a centre which studies Fortean Zoology. What's Fortean Zoology, I hear you ask? Well, we really need to go back and talk about a man called Charles Fort. Charles Hoy Fort, who lived from 1874 till 1932, was an American writer and researcher who specialized in anomalous phenomena. Even before the time of his death, the terms Fortean and Forteana have been used to characterize various such phenomena. Fort's books sold well and are still in print, and his work continues to inspire admirers, including us, who refer to themselves as Forteans. And so when, back in 1992, I decided that I wanted to start an organization to study mystery animals around the world, what was I going to call it? It was a no-brainer. I called it the Centre for Fortean Zoology, because Bernard Heuvelmans had already had a thing called the Centre for Cryptozoology, and although cryptozoology is a large chunk of what we do, it isn't all of what we do, and Fortean Zoology seemed to tick most of the boxes. Now, one of the most iconic mystery animals in the world is the hulking man-beast known as Bigfoot, and now I'm going to have my glamorous assistant Carl. Exhibit A, please, Carl. Blimey, that's heavy. This is one of the footprints. This is a copy of a cast of one of the footprints found in 1967 by Patterson and Gimlin at Bluff Creek in Northern California. The film that they took that day is probably the most iconic footage ever of a mystery animal, whether or not you believe it actually shows a mystery animal or whether you believe it's cleverly showing some bloke in a monkey suit. But this is undoubtedly one of the most iconic artifacts of cryptozoology, Fortean zoology, and any other zoology that you care to mention. Exhibit 2, please, glamorous assistant. Now this, it's smaller, but it's still much larger than a human foot, and you can see that this is much more carunculated. And if you look close up with it, you can see that it shows what are known as dermal ridges, the equivalent of fingerprints, which are found on the feet of primates. Quite a lot of footprints that have been recovered over the years appear to show dermal ridges, and these are, in many people's eyes, the be-all and end-all of the evidence. They are too difficult to fake, people say, and so if they show dermal ridges, they must show something that has come from a real living creature. And finally, Exhibit 3, please, Carl. Regular CFZ watchers across the years will have known that despite the fact I actually saw a Bigfoot-type creature, which was obviously not flesh and blood, in Bowland Lake in Northumberland 18 years ago, there has been a long-standing battle between us and the Centre for Fortean Zoology and people in the British Bigfoot research community who believe that there are flesh and blood Bigfoots found all over England, particularly in the north half. And this piece of evidence, a footprint which was cast only a few weeks ago at a secret location in the Midlands, does possibly show that there are strange subhuman man-beasts lurking there. But of course it doesn't prove anything of the sort. The footprint was made by Carl. This is a cast of his own foot, and it is just the beginning of an extremely interesting series of experiments that he's carrying out, which have the potential to cause enormous ramifications across the world of hominin research worldwide. So, Carl, what actually is this all about?
I just wanted to conduct a series of experiments just to find out at what point dermal ridges show up in the footprints I was making. I'm using different soil types, different moisture, so some of them are quite damp, some will be quite dry. My experiment didn't go quite as I planned, simply because the very first track I produced was literally covered in dermal ridges, and it wasn't particularly fine soil, but it was damp. There are dermal ridges all over this cast. Obviously this is different from what you would find if you were actually looking for tracks in, say, the Midwest or somewhere, or the Pacific Northwest, simply because I don't walk around in barefoot all the time, so I've got strong dermal ridges all over the bottom of my foot, which have obviously come out quite nicely on the bottom of this cast. There are longitudinal solid bands of dermal ridges running throughout the entire heel. The big toe is completely covered with dermal ridges, as is the second toe.
Do you think the camera will be able to get them close enough up to see if we can see them? Okay, can you point the ones on the big toe, please?
They're all over the top end mainly. Obviously if this had been a Bigfoot cast, you wouldn't expect to see them all over the toe because the toes would be worn, but you would get them around the edges.
So now, point them
all over there.
Those sideways ones?
They're arched ones, what you would expect.
Good Lord.
This here is my thumb. I put that in there just to compare. Obviously it makes it look like a six-toed ape at the moment, but that's actually my thumb.
Yes. Good Lord. And you said as well that there was a bit sticking out.
Yeah, I noticed that when I put my foot down, I pushed up an area here of mud which has come out, and that kind of corresponds actually to the cripple foot, the so-called cripple foot. But that doesn't mean that's what that is at all. That's could be coincidental.
Okay, tell me about the cripple foot.
It's the Bossberg track. It was found in 1982, I think. It was Grover Kranz. It was basically the left foot, I believe. I think, I'm not entirely sure, but it was what you call pigeon-footed. So it was arched halfway along. It was sort of kinked round, and there was two what we thought were corresponding bones sticking out from the tarsals there. Obviously that's not what that is here, that's just mud that's done that, but it's kind of in the same place. The dermal ridges on the heel are very, very pronounced actually, if I get a bit closer.
Now the big question would be, show me again, no, show me the ones on the heel.
They run all the way along, you can probably see them better on the dark patch in the middle. If that had been a wild foot, I bet someone that walks barefooted all the time, you would expect those dermal lines to be here and not so much on the actual surface itself. You might get them on this edge as well, but this is the side you would expect to find them mainly.
Okay, the big question is, you've now shown that it's quite easy to get.
Extremely easy, this was the first one I did.
So it's easy to get dermal ridges. If you were going to fake a footprint, and we're not pretending that's anything apart from your foot, but if you were going to try and fake a big footprint, how easy would it be to put your dermal ridges into a bigger footprint?
It would be easy, but it wouldn't convince a professional, because from what I gather, the real Bigfoot tracks, which have got dermal ridges in the toes, they fill the toe how you would expect them to for a large toe. If I put my toe in a Bigfoot track and tried to make a dermal ridge, it would look like a small toe that's been rolled around, you know, to try and fill the gap. But that's not the case with the Bigfoot footprints, from what I gather.
Well, I'm not going to draw any conclusions just yet, but we're going to be following Carl's series of experiments to see how they go. But whatever happens, it does prove that the presence of dermal ridges in a footprint are more significant, but differently significant, than was at first thought. I am indebted to my old friend Judy for this story. Many of you will remember her from Weird Weekends about 10 years ago, when I always used to manipulate the annual quiz in order to take the mickey out of her. She's not only a good sport, but she's a good friend, and she's very good at finding these strange stories. I was in bed the other night, waiting for the arms of Morpheus to encircle me, when the iPad by the side of my bed made a beeping noise. It was Judy sending me this remarkable piece of footage. It originally appeared on the website of the Independent newspaper, but I believe that we're justified in showing it as part of On the Track under the legal justification of fair use. It was taken at Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, last summer, and whilst it appears to show a shark being carried off by a huge bird of prey, it actually appears that the fish in question isn't a shark. It's been identified as a ladyfish. The Elophidae are a family of grey-finned fish containing a single living genus of elops. There are 9 species in this genus, 2 of which appear to be extinct, and there are 2 species which are found in the western Atlantic Ocean along the coast of North America, including South Carolina. Something which I didn't know about these fish is, like eels, they've got a larval stage as leptocepheli, and it appears that these leaf-shaped babies spend this portion of their existence in the Hypersaline coastal lagoons in this part of North America. From this one can extrapolate, therefore, that these coastal waters will contain all sorts of sizes of this species. Therefore, what appears to be an enormous bird of prey may not be anything of the sort. It has been suggested by quite a few people, including Judy, that this bird is a condor. There are two species of condor, and whilst the North American species, the California condor, was once found all across North America, it's now insanely rare and only found where it's been reintroduced into a few select parts of the southwest of the continent. The other species, the Andean condor, is only found in South America. However, animals can and do escape from captivity, and so I wondered whether any zoos on the eastern seaboard actually had either species of condor in. So I went to Zoo Tier Lister, which is an invaluable website that Max Blake introduced me to, and I soon realized that this remarkable resource only refers to institutions that are members of the European Association for Zoos and Aquariums, and whilst I'm sure there is a similar resource for North American zoos, I don't know how to access it. So I did what I always do in these cases. I sent an email to my old friend Dr. Max Blake. And I've not heard back from him yet, but I promise you, ladies and gentlemen, when I do, you guys out there in viewerland will be the first to know. Now, we've come to the end of another episode, and I just want to say a big thank you to everybody who's helped, but especially once again to Louie, because if it wasn't for him, none of the technical advancements that you can see in this episode and the last one would have taken place. Thanks, mate. I really do appreciate it. Now, guys, while I'm here in serious mode, I'm not going to make any commitments to how often these shows are going to come out. I'm going to put them out as and when I can while we're here in a sort of shakedown phase, and once we've ended the shakedown phase, I'll make some sort of commitment and be a little bit more professional about it. But at the moment we are still in I'm going to say shakedown phase for the third time in this sentence, but hey, it's been a long day and I don't really care. So at the end of this shakedown phase we'll know what's happening, but until then, be seeing you.